welcome back to World Crisis Radio. So therefore, the comparison is Rahm Emanuel and Obama attempting to purge the House of Representatives, comparable in many ways to the campaign of Mussolini against the Italian Parliament in 1923, 24, 25. He attempted to stack the deck with this fake election law, similar to what's going on today, the attempt to pass health care with a self-activating rule that deems that the House passed the bill and then reconciles that. Well, similar to these things that Mussolini was doing to the Italian Parliament. The main protester against this was Matteotti, who was then assassinated by people close to the fascist party. This then led to a secession. In other words, the people who were being driven, being attacked in the parliament said, we're going to leave the Italian parliament and set up our own counter-parliament on the Aventine Hill, some distance away. And, of course, this turned out to be a disaster, and that was the end of them, and that led then to the consolidation of the full-fledged totalitarian dictatorship. So what we're seeing is a kind of Aventine succession in place. The people stay in the House of Representatives, but they shut up and they don't do anything. So we'll see how this goes. Now, there's a foreign policy angle to this. Obviously, we had Biden in the Middle East this week, meeting with Netanyahu, and then being affronted by an announcement of 1,600 new settlement homes in Jerusalem this time, but it does, from the international point of view, fulfill the definition of the occupied territories, because that's what that is until the final status talks. So this was a complete affront to Biden, who then had to come out and say, I condemn what this government has just done. Right? Netanyahu claiming that he didn't know the right-wing or extreme right-wing minister in charge of the housing did it. There's also this strange incident where Netanyahu gives Biden a framed picture of Biden's mother planting a tree there in Israel, in the Holy Land, except that the glass on the picture is shattered, saying, I have nothing to give you but broken glass. Broken glass, some kind of a coded message, and certainly not good. Now, there's also then the overwhelming economic ramification. If the Rahm Emanuel strategy goes through, and generally this is what's happening already, a tremendous wave of drastic austerity gripping the United States. We went through this Rohatyn-Ravitch plan for New York State. In Kansas City, we've got a large part of the school system, almost half of it, being shut down. Rush Limbaugh thinks that's wonderful. As the fabric of human civilization is destroyed, the Limbaugh types, the Austrians and Chicago boys, the disciples of William F. Buckley, exult because they say, this is big government being dismantled. Yes, too bad. As human civilization goes by the boards. Illinois, Governor Pat Quinn says he's going to cut $2 billion from the state budget in a caustic budget reform, including the firing of 13,000 teachers. In Virginia, $2.2 billion deficit, $1 billion plus cuts in education and Medicaid with Governor McDonnell, the stealth reactionary, right, the smiling reactionary type, saying, I am going to fire essentially tens of thousands of teachers is what it's going to be there. In New Jersey, Governor Christie, using this complete Tea Party anti-government ideological reaction, he wants to cut 2,000 state workers, privatize significant parts of the New Jersey government, and he wants to make state employees pay for their parking tickets. You look at this guy, he reminds me of Hermann Goering. He's the Garden State Goering. He wants to declare a state of emergency and bust the unions by depriving them of their contracts. In California, we have 8 counties where the unemployment has gone over 20% officially. In Michigan, we're over 13.5% unemployment officially. And here in the District of Columbia, 12% unemployment. Now, here's the message. This doesn't work. It's ideological. It's insane. It's lunatic. You cut the budget this time around. You fire state workers, cut government services. What have you done? The taxes being paid by those government workers are no longer paid. Instead, they're going to be drawing unemployment benefits. Your deficit goes up. The local restaurants, dry cleaners, services, all the rest, patronized by those state workers, will then feel the pinch. Tax revenues go down, and the next year, your deficit is bigger. In a depression, budget cuts lead to bigger deficits. This is the stupidity, the cretinism of the Tea Party demand. It's the old Ross Perot demand. Run it like you'd run your kitchen table. It's not the same. In a depression, government activity in general looms larger and larger because of the collapse of the private sector. And that means if you simply remove the government part, thinking that you're going to balance the budget, it's a never-ending spiral into the abyss because every cut you make comes back to haunt you with lower levels of economic activity, lower tax revenues, and a multiplier effect from that through the economy. Larry Kudlow, the cocaine-preferring commentator there over at CNBC, obviously he wants to shift the burden of the depression to public sector employees. He says we've got to have a nationwide, immediate 10% wage cut for all public sector employees. That's what's being done in Greece, where they are under hedge fund attack. This is CNBC. And again, the general idea, there's an attempt to direct the hatred of the masses against public sector workers. Well, that's because they have unions. The answer to the fact that many public sector workers get more than the private sector is, hey, you guys in the private sector, form your own union, have collective bargaining, and you can make a living wage too. It's not to bust the other guy's union. Again, the favorite tactic of the ruling class is to play one part of the population against another while Wall Street laughs all the way to the bank. And let me remind you, the great example of why this stuff does not work and reminds you in a chilling way of what it leads to is the Hermann Brüning government in Germany, B-R-U-N-I-N-G, or B-R-U with two dots over it, B-R-U umlaut N-I-N-G. The Chancellor of Germany from March of 1930 to the summer of 1932. This was an austerity dictatorship in the midst of the Great Depression. He would write these emergency decree laws, the so-called Notverordnungen. These would be issued under the signature of Field Marshal Paul von Hindenburg. That would be our dear friend General Petraeus in the coming years. But Hindenburg would put them out, and those were austerity decrees in a state of emergency. And what was the main thing? Budget cuts, higher taxes, taxes on wages, on income, on sales, turnover, taxes on sugar, on beer, on tobacco, the attack on public sector workers. Public workers were hit hard. State social spending was cut, and in particular, the unemployment insurance fund was targeted by Brüning, and this led to massive increases in unemployment and a growing deficit. And what did it do? It destroyed the institutions of the Republic of Germany at that time, the Weimar Republic. The democratic representative institutions, such as they were completely destroyed by this process of austerity. And that is what these cretins from McDonnell in Virginia, to Christie in New Jersey, to the Kansas City School Board, to Governor Pat Quinn, to Ravitch, if he ever gets power in New York State, God help us. They do not understand that this destroys the basis of democratic representative institutions. So austerity doesn't work. Deflation doesn't work. You need an economic program to fight the depression. Start off with a Tobin tax, Wall Street sales tax, and ban credit default swaps. Those are the issues. And check my 5-point comprehensive emergency program to stop the depression at tarpley.net. Look at tarpley.net repeatedly during the week, and we'll be back next week.